This is Mac OS Ken.
Still more talk of a SuperCycle, still more 5G confusion, and some software updates about which to tell you. It's Wednesday, the 21st of October, 2020. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Sunbasket. Get $35 off your order using promo code MacOSKen at sunbasket.com/MacOSKen. This show is also sponsored by MacPaw, makers of Clean My Mac X. Clean My Mac X is all-in-one cleaning and optimizing software for your Mac. Clean My Mac X declutters your Mac and runs maintenance scripts to keep your Mac's performance at its peak. Of course, even the smartest utility might confuse trash and treasure. Clean My Mac X gives you more control over apps and their files. You can find out what apps and programs you have on your Mac and uninstall the ones you don't need. It's up to you. Who knows what's hidden on your Mac? Regular maintenance can be key to running a clean machine. Take care of it with the push of a virtual button and Clean My Mac X. Learn more about Clean My Mac X and download it for free at macpaw.app/MacOSKen. That's MACPAW, macpaw.app/MacOSKen. That's macpaw.app/MacOSKen for Clean My Mac X. And a big thanks to MacPaw for sponsoring today's show. More support for a strong iPhone 12 debut in China, particularly for the Pro side of the ledger. CNBC has new numbers from an Apple reseller that are small, but they're real. Like actual numbers from the source, not guesstimates. As of 9:30 a.m. China time on Tuesday, CNBC says Apple authorized reseller Fenqile had fielded 152,737 pre-orders for iPhone 12, running the entire range from iPhone 12 mini up through iPhone 12 Pro Max. Of the pre-orders, nearly 10% were iPhone mini, nearly 43% were iPhone 12, over 28% were iPhone 12 Pro, and just under 19% were iPhone 12 Pro Max. That's about 53% for the consumer line and 47% for the pros. Now a fun bit of trivia. China has got the blues. Anyway, Fenqile customers do. According to CNBC, Apple's iPhone 12 64GB in blue makes up 20% of pre-orders on Fenqile, with the iPhone 12 Pro 128GB Pacific Blue variant making up 11%. Those are the two most popular models. The carrier's numbers are interesting, though not necessarily indicative for the whole of China's iPhone 12 shoppers. Apple won't start taking orders for the Mini and the Pro Max until the 6th of November. Wedbush analyst Daniel Ives sees new reasons to believe in the iPhone 12 SuperCycle. Apple insiders had a peek at a note he wrote. He says his firm's technology, media, and telecom team has been sounding the supply chain and liking what they hear. According to Ives, Apple's supply chain is now targeting 80 million units in the iPhone 12 line to start the show. That could go as high as the mid-80 million range. Heading into the high-speed event a little over a week ago, expectations were only for 75 million units. The month before that, the target was only 65 million to 70 million. Says Mr. Ives, we have not seen a launch uptrend such as this in a number of years for Apple, and the only iPhone trajectory similar would be the iPhone 6 in 2014, based on our analysis. Not surprising then that he too thinks the iPhone 12 launch is dwarfing last year's models. Based on iPhone lead times and the supply chain checks, Apple Insider says, Ives believes that pre-orders are tracking 2 times the iPhone 11 lineup. That suggests a robust start out of the gates for the iPhone 12. With close to 1 billion iPhones in use today, Ives figures about a third of them, roughly 350 million, are in the upgrade window. Ives believes this will translate into an unprecedented upgrade cycle for Apple. He's got a buy rating on Apple shares. His price target on the shares is $150. If you were hoping that a truly mass-market 5G smartphone would eliminate confusion around the cellular protocol, I want to live in that mythical world. Apple Insider says the 5G symbol in the upper right corner of your iPhone 12 doesn't mean you're on 5G. It just indicates the best available connection. Anyway, that's the impression they get from a piece on The Verge. In his iPhone 12 review, that site's Dieter Bond says the 5G label behavior is part of iPhone 12's Smart Data Mode. That's the thing where iPhone 12 uses 4G LTE until 5G is needed, which is when it switches automatically to the faster protocol. Quoting Bond, "What's weird is that when the iPhone is limiting you to LTE speeds, it will still display the 5G icon in the status bar. It's now an indicator of the best speed available to you, not the actual type of connection that's actively in use." I am so looking forward to those lawsuits. Bond points out that Smart Data Mode is something users can toggle on or off. Testing it out, Bond left it on and says he honestly never really felt that he was being throttled. The piece goes on to say, as far as how 5G actually performed on the iPhone 12, the review notes that it performs as well or better than 5G Android phones. Bond adds that devices do heat up when the 5G is in use, and battery life can take a hit if it's overused. Also looking forward to those lawsuits. If you're planning to use dual SIM mode for your iPhone 12, don't plan to use 5G right away. That's because it won't work right away, according to Mac Rumors. It's the dual part that seems to be the trouble. If you've got an iPhone XS or later, you have a dual SIM capable phone. Mac Rumors explains, saying iPhone XS models and newer feature both a physical SIM slot and a digital eSIM, allowing for a feature known as dual SIM, dual standby. This means you can have two lines of service on one iPhone, which is useful for purchasing data-only plans while traveling abroad or having personal and business lines on a single iPhone. Again, though, not great for 5G, at least not right away. For single-line phones, 5G will be no problem. If you have a SIM card and you've not activated the iPhone's eSIM, 5G will work. An Apple doc seen by Mac Rumors says if customers are using eSIM only and are on a 5G-supported carrier and service plan, they'll have 5G access. But the same document says when using two lines in dual SIM mode, 5G data isn't supported on either line and will fall back to 4G LTE. Kinda lame, but also only temporary. Word is Apple will bring 5G support for dual SIM mode through a software update by the end of this year. Speaking of updates, a few software updates about which to tell you. First, the Mac Observer says Apple has actually released iOS 14.1 and iPadOS 14.1. Unlike last week's release of those two operating systems and their subsequent disappearing act, it looks like this time they're sticking around. Bug fixes and improvements are the names of these games, likely giving the operating systems a polish ahead of new iPhones and iPads arriving this weekend. Not sure you've heard. I could read the fixes to you, but can you imagine anything more boring? The updates fix things you will want fixed. They're free, and they're available now in settings on associated iPhones and iPads. Also out Tuesday, HomePod software 14.1. A piece from Mac Rumors says this one does bring new features, including support for HomePod Mini, which you can't have for another few weeks. But the software is ready. Other additions and improvements include tweaks to Siri, including suggestions turning up in Maps when you ask HomePod location-based questions, sending web search requests from the HomePod to your iPhone, the ability to control alarms and timers on a number of HomePods from any other HomePod, and voice recognition support for podcasts for multiple users in the home. The update also turns on the intercom function introduced at last week's high-speed event, and can't wait to wake up in the morning for this one, when I can finally set the HomePod to wake me up with a song, playlist, or radio station from Apple Music. All that plus stabs and perfs. The HomePod update is free. You can wait for it to happen by itself or force it through the Home app on an associated device. More news in a moment, but first a word from Sunbasket, delivering oven-ready meals that are fast, fresh, and delicious. Actually, that should say fast, fresh, delicious, and easy. That's the whole oven-ready part. Do you know how to make southwestern turkey and sweet potato skillet, or cauliflower macaroni and cheese? I'm here to tell you, you do. Preheat the oven, put in the oven-ready meal, take the oven-ready meal out when it's ready for you. Then enjoy. I'm sure you will. Everything I've had from Sunbasket has been fantastic. Now, I said preheat the oven, but you can actually microwave these as well. That means you could be trying something new from award-winning chefs in under 10 minutes. So, what'll you have? Right now, Sunbasket is offering $35 off your order when you go right now to sunbasket.com/macOSKen and enter promo code macOSKen at checkout. That's sunbasket.com/macOSKen and enter promo code macOSKen at checkout for $35 off your order. Sunbasket.com/macOSKen and enter promo code macOSKen. And a big thanks to Sunbasket for sponsoring today's show. You've probably heard that the DOJ is officially going after Google over antitrust concerns. But did you hear that Apple is in the middle of it? According to a piece from Apple Insider, on Tuesday, the Department of Justice filed an antitrust lawsuit against Google that accused the company of abusing its power over the internet search industry. The deal with Apple and other companies is cited as part of the department's argument. This is the deal that has Google paying Apple as much as $9 billion to stay the default search engine in Apple's web browser. Well, $9 billion is the rumor anyway. Apple Insider says although neither company has confirmed how much the deal is actually worth, the lawsuit indicates that it accounts for between 15% and 20% of Apple's annual profits. That suggests payments of as much as $11 billion. The DOJ case paints Apple and Google as rather chummy. Apple Insider says Google CEO Sundar Pichai and Apple CEO Tim Cook met a couple of years ago to figure out how they could keep working together. After the meeting, the piece says a senior Apple exec told a Google counterpart that our vision is that we work as if we are one company, the lawsuit claims. For its part, Google thinks the suit is all messed up, deeply flawed, in the search giant's words. Apple Insider says Google says it's people who choose Google Search and that they're not forced into using the service. True. But you gotta figure that $9 to $11 billion is being spent for some reason. Canada is pretty. And soon, Apple Maps for Canada will be too. iDownload blog says the improved Apple Maps experience is headed to the Great White North. According to the report, Apple is publicly testing the redesigned Apple Maps right now, with such tests usually running 16 days to a month and a half maybe. Assuming they stick to that schedule, the piece says the new Apple Maps experience could launch to the public in Canada sometime before the end of November. Right. Did you know that there is a remote for Apple TV built into the control center for iOS? I've seen it. I've used it. So how did I not know it was there? Well, I mean, I knew it was there, but I didn't know it was built in. I thought it was showing up because of the Apple TV remote app that I had downloaded years ago and which nobody can download anymore. 9to5Mac says Apple has pulled that app from the App Store. Not a surprise in the site's estimation, since Apple has added the remote feature built into the control center in iOS, which was a surprise to me. If you're not seeing that in your control center, by the way, just go to Settings, then Control Center, then hit the plus sign to add the remote to the mix. And finally today, Apple's got a new entrepreneur camp on the way. Apple Insider ran a piece earlier this week saying that the Cupertino company has opened applications for an online program for Black founders and developers. According to the report, the company's entrepreneurship camps support underrepresented founders and developers that are building the next generation App Store apps. In the past, Apple has held camps for businesses owned or founded by women. Now, this is serious business that could lead to serious business. Of the camp, Apple says, during this technology lab, you'll receive one-on-one code-level guidance on your app from Apple experts and engineers, as well as mentorship, inspiration, and insights from top Apple leaders. After the lab concludes, you'll get ongoing support and become part of a growing community of other exceptional alumni who can help you build your business. Applications open Monday. They need to be completed by the 20th of November. The camp itself runs the 16th of February through the 25th, 2021. Interested parties can get more information and start the application process at developer.apple.com/entrepreneur-camp. Coming up in a few minutes, Bill Gates says Congress shouldn't lump Apple, Amazon, Facebook, and Google into one big pile when examining antitrust issues. I say Bill Gates is right. Daily Tech News shows Tom Merritt says Bill Gates is right. Kind of. I bring the topic, Tom brings the nuance, in a few minutes, wherever you get podcasts. On Tuesday's macOS Ken Live, we talked thoughts on the apparent iPhone SuperCycle and Charlie Brown's new home with Apple. Look for the audio podcast, macOS Ken Live, wherever you get podcasts, or catch the video on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/KenRay. We're live again today, by the way, 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern, youtube.com/KenRay. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by MacPaw, makers of Clean My Mac X. Learn more about Clean My Mac X and download it for free at macpaw.app/macOS Ken. This show is also sponsored by Sunbasket. Get $35 off your order using promo code macOS Ken at sunbasket.com/macOS Ken. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media. Online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.